Right, welcome to an edition of Facebook Live. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Sorry we were a bit late starting, but we have had a few technical difficulties, but it's all up and running now. Nothing like a few technical difficulties to start one of these off, as anybody that's ever done one with me before will realise. So, while we thought we were running, I was talking about some of our adhesives and what tonight's all about. So what it's about is looking at the adhesives we have in our range, yes, but it's also about how we use a flooring adhesive in regards to the applications we're going to be doing. So before the camera started, I was busy spreading some 2000S, and I've done a little bit earlier on today. So basically what we've got that I spread literally a couple of minutes ago here with an 18-notch trowel. I spread that to the floor, and there's some here that I spread at 4:30 today, which is what we class as this pressure sensitive state, or a little bit over, which I'm going to go into in a great depth. So as we spread this with our trowel, we've got it all nice and so on. One thing I want you to think about, if you've used some pressure sensitive adhesive for vinyl sheet and stuff like that, when you spread your next one, try your best, ideally put some masking tape down that joint to not overlap the one you've already done, because that will create a ridge that you might be able to see under your floor covering once you've laid it. So peel your masking tape off, have a nice clean edge to work to. So we've used KE2000S, as I said. Now I spread it on the floor. It's very important that we give the adhesive an airing time. So as you can see, I've spread it there, just going to touch it out the bucket, and if you can see what I'm doing there, there's no stick to that whatsoever at the moment, because there's moisture in this adhesive. Water is the carrier to be able to spread it, and we need that to evaporate off before this adhesive starts getting sticky. So that's the stage we're at now. So with our 2000S, we class it as a pressure sensitive, which it is, but it can also be used as a wet set, semi-wet set, or PS. But it depends what you're fitting and how you're going to use it. Other thing with this type of adhesive, it's not just for vinyls, it's not just for LVTs, it can also be used for carpet, lino, rubber, and as you're going to see a little bit later on, it can be used for turning your vinyls up the wall if required, when you've been asked not to use a solvented adhesive. So while we're just waiting for that to air off a little bit more, I'm just going to, hopefully this is going now. As you can see on my fingers now, yeah, it's started to grab. So that's now airing off. So we're getting there. And it's important that you don't go into adhesive straight away, because you stop that airing out process. Okay, so I'll just take that glove off, because it's going to be all sticky. So while we're just waiting for that a little bit more, we just look at the pressure sensitive that I applied earlier on. Now pressure sensitive is fine for fitting vinyl sheets and stuff like that. It's great in that environment when you're doing big areas, you can spread out big jobs. Okay, but when we're doing LVTs and stuff like that, which you can use 2000S for, we don't really want you using it as a pressure sensitive. It should either be used as a wet set or semi-wet set. And I'm going to explain a little bit the science behind that. So I'm just going to get a few of these planks in. And just talk to you about, so this is what a lot of fitters would be doing with the PS type adhesive. You can see it's grabbing, like so, which is not an issue. And then we give it a roll. But what this adhesive is really doing, or this LVT is really doing at the moment, is just sitting on top of the rib. And if we get temperature changes in the floor, in the room and stuff like that, it can actually move on that rib. Okay, so really when we're fitting LVTs and stuff like that, even though this feels a bit stuck, okay, no transfer on the back, yeah, I'm not really sticking to anything. And that's been down for an hour and a half. Now I do know that people sometimes will spread a big area and they're laying into their PS after a couple of hours. So realistically, in this world, for LVTs, we wouldn't do that. But flannel sheets are fine because it's a bigger area. We'll pull that off, as you can see there, no transfer on the back whatsoever. And actually, the rib formation is still sitting up, it hasn't squashed it down at all. So, ideally for LVTs, we shouldn't be going into PSs as such. So, I'll just drop that on there so I can kneel on it. We just look at some of the other planks here that we've got. So I just start from there. So this now is being down. So as you can see now, if I straighten my finger across it, the ribs are squashing in, they're still squashing down. That's still at its wet set stage, but it's had enough airing time now to start making it sticky. So again, if I drop that in there, drop that in there, right. So again, good thing about using it as a wet set like I'm doing now, I've got a line there, I'm just making sure I'm working to the line and it's allowing me to move it a little bit, which is good. Just drop that one in there. And as you can all see, when you get to my age now, I have to number everything. Yeah. The guys behind the cameras are just laughing now. Yeah. So we just push that in, that's right, that's all in position. That's what we class as wet set. Again, pressure roller, really good for your initial roll. When you're doing the floor, when you're doing that, and I say initial roll, because really nothing's replaced using the 68 kg roller when you're going across the floor to make sure it's fully squashed in. So we pull a bit of that back now. Great transfer on the back of the plank. When that's gone off and fully cured, that will secure that in place. So like I say, 2000S, really good adhesive, can be used as a PS, can be used as a semi-wet set, which we'll look at in a minute, and even a wet set. If I was using it out on site, I'd be using it as a wet set or semi-wet for LVTs. Vinyl sheets, semi-wet to a PS, okay. If we were going to do lino, semi-wet set, or maybe wet set so it gets into the back of the jute. Semi-carpet, wet set, semi-wet set. Rubber, semi-wet set, etc, etc. So it's an all-round multi-purpose adhesive. Really has got a great bond. And you know, it's one of the best selling flooring adhesives in the world, is 2000S. So while we're waiting for that, what I'm going to do now is look at one of our other ones in the range, and there's a reason we're going to do that. So the next one we're going to look at is our KE66. So KE66 is a fibre reinforced wet set adhesive, which again can be used for vinyl sheets, LVTs and even rubber. Alright, now this is a total wet set. When you spread this, this airs off quicker because it's got fibres in it. It helps with the airing off process, but the fibres also do another job. So we'll just pull a few of these up. Again, very creamy consistency. And just because I pulled them up and I got some contamination underneath. And again, it's important that we do this, guys. It's going to be a bit noisy for you. Always get your hoover. Just vacuum up any last bit on the floors. So we're trying to get rid of all that contamination. That was under the floor. There's Fiona. Yeah, just put her away now. If you come on one of our training courses, you'll realise why we call her Fiona. So we got our adhesive. Again, great consistency. I'm going to apply it again tonight with an A2 notch trowel. Guys, when you're using your trowel blades, just think about how many square metres coverage you get out of a trowel blade. We say here about 50 square metres, and that trowel blade, if you're doing it on sand, cement, screen and concrete, will be worn out. As a young guy starting into this industry, I'm sure there'll be some people tuned in tonight, we used to use a saw file and sharpen them back up. But realistically, when you're doing that, what notch size is that? We're just guessing really. So it's important that we do change our blades quite regular. And the good thing about the Wolf blades is they're interchangeable, yeah, two-sided, so you're getting 100 square metres out of one blade, okay, which is really good. But it's important that you do that and you think about that, because there's nothing worse than having the incorrect amount of adhesive on the floor. So I'm just going to pour some out. Again, good consistency. And again, when you're using adhesive, don't be, cut it across the side so it's not making too much of a mess on your tin. And then just trowel it out. Now, because it's got fibres in, fibres have a number of jobs, but they're almost creating a mesh under the adhesive, under the floor covering that you're installing. So what that's going to do is enable us to give it a shorter airing time and help with that lateral movement. What do I mean by lateral movement? Well, basically, when I get on the planks, as you've seen there, and I'll demonstrate it in a minute, because I've gone in at a wet set, they will still slide around. And as a floor layer, I'm sure you've all been there, okay, then the worst thing you can have is the planks sliding around underneath you. Just so I've got you on here, and so everybody understands this, I'm just going to go and grab a spare bucket. Just bear with me a second, because there's something we should do now, really. Now, a lot of us don't do this. When we've spread our adhesive and we've got some excess on the floor like I have, we all, and again I can say I'm a prima donna and I've never done it, but I always like to be honest, yeah, we all tend to put it back into the bucket, but really we should be scooping what's left into an old bucket. Does anybody know why? Yeah, it'd be great to see some answers on the screen why we're doing this. And while we're on that note, okay, if you've got any questions tonight, please bang them in. We'll either get to them tonight live, or I'll answer them later on or tomorrow when we've got time to get back to you. Oh, need a little bit more there. But the reason I haven't put this back into this bucket is basically I'm going to pick up contamination from whatever I'm doing. Now, that, even though I hooved the floor off, I could still pick up a few snots of something, or something might have fallen off my work trousers, and so on. Again, always have some wipes with you just to clean your trowel as you go. So, I'm just going to, the guys that are doing the camera work for me tonight, does anybody give us an answer for that? Why have we put it into a separate bucket?
So Stuart said contamination.
Yeah.
Josh said contamination.
Yeah, so great. You're absolutely spot on, guys. You're on the same wavelength as me. And again, I think till I came onto the came off my tools and came onto the manufacturing side, you know, a lot of this knowledge has been shared with me, which I'm passing to you. So it's good practice to do that. So again, like I've done before, I think I need to go back to spreading school myself by the look of it. Okay, like I did before, I spread that Even this adhesive needs that airing time. So again, just to show you that, yeah, not sticky at all, so it needs to air off. But I can go in a lot quicker into this adhesive because the fibres help with that lateral movement. If I go back to the 2000S and I used it as a wet set, I'll just take them gloves off now. I used it as a wet set. If you look there, I've still got a bit of lateral movement within that plank. Probably won't get that as a semi-wet set, but certainly as a wet set it's going to move round. So I need to let that go off a little bit more before I can kneel on them. This one I'll be able to go on a little quicker. While we're waiting for that, and I know it's going to be a little bit confusing for you, hopefully you can follow me, I'm now going to go back to the 2000S and use it for the cap and cove side, okay? And then I'm going to talk about some more adhesives and then come back to the 66. Alright, so earlier on today, what I've done, just hang there with me a second, I put the coving on, alright, and I've got a bit of ultra vinyl, you can see that there, and I've rolled on some 2000S on the back, and you probably can't see it very well on the camera, but I rolled some on there as well with a little foam roller, okay, and I've let it go off this afternoon. So what I'm going to do now is just drop that on there in the right position, like so. And that's the 2000S on there, as you can see already. Okay, using as a solvent-free type of contact adhesive. It's very good in that. So again, we're doing this type of work, we're going to roll that into there and make sure we haven't got any voids. And we're just going to run that up the wall, like so. I'll get my roller, just put a bit of pressure on it. Again, just so you can see, yeah, let's grab that, okay. So, if you're ever on a job, the site won't allow you to use a solvented contact adhesive, then if you've got some 2000S with you, then the job can carry on. Okay, so I'll just pull that up there now. Okay, and then slide that across the top. Now, if you want to, you can always introduce a little bit of heat just to make sure it's in place, yeah. But that is 2000S. We spoke about using for LVTs. You can use it for wall sheets, carpet, lino, as I said, rubber, but also for doing a cap and cove up the wall, etc., etc. And if anybody's ever used it, you won't be disappointed in regards to that. What you might find at the moment, the way the adhesive's working, it's allowing me to manipulate it. If I've got it a little bit tight into the cap and strip, but that will go off overnight. And tomorrow you'll pull that and it'll actually pull the face off. If you've got a dusty wall or something like that, then chuck a bit of our 360 plus primer on it just to kill that dust and that on the wall. No problem. While I'm up here, before I move to the next one, we might as well do it while I'm here. Also working in conjunction with Quantum and Quantum Systems. Okay, they kindly supply us with the sit-on skirting, one of my pet hates when I was fitting. Yeah, so we put some sit-on skirting instead of doing the cove up on the wall. So we have a tape for doing that. There's lots of tapes on the market, okay, and there has been some sorts of problems with tapes. I'm not going to go into that too much. We've developed the tape that's ideal for skirtings, but basically, because it's foil lined, as you'll see, creates a barrier between the background reacting with the PVC. When you buy one, it comes with a spacer. Now, it's very tempting when we're using tape to put it on the back of your skirtings, etc., etc. But no, it should go on the wall. Alright. The idea of the spacer is just to keep it off the floor slightly. So again, all I'm going to do with that is put that up there. As a lot of people tried this tape and come back to me straight away and said, well, it doesn't seem to stick very well. Well, again, the makeup of this tape is a pressure sensitive type of adhesive, so it does need time to go off. You come back tomorrow, okay, it'll be stuck really, really well. So again, and this can be used for cap and coving as well. I've done many a job, and there's a video online with Quantum where I did cap and cove installation and welded it with the tape. Again, just pull that off. Again, you've got a dusty background, find it with our 360 plus, and again, make sure your skirting's clean. And then put it on. If your skirting having an issue with your skirting, now some of these scrim tapes, the ones with the scrim in, sometimes they'll ball up if they've been in your van for a while. And the worst thing you can have is a ball behind a little lump of it behind your vinyl or your skirting, because it'll look awful. Yeah, this doesn't do that, it doesn't ball up. Nice clean tape. If it doesn't fit and you need to move it at this stage, with some of the tapes on the market, when you pull them back, it tends to pull the plaster because they've got a really strong grab on them. With this, initially, if you need to, you can pull it back, alter your skirting if it doesn't work, put it back into place, and it doesn't pull the background with it, ideally. So that's the remover. We do it in 4 sizes. We do a 25, 35, 95 and 145. So obviously for skirtings it's 95 or 145 depending on the height of the skirt. But as I said, it can be used for cap and cove as well. So earlier on before we started tonight, one of the guys in marketing said he was rather cold in here. Yeah, and it's killing me, this heat. Thank you for that. All right. Put that back in there, and I'll let anybody out there work out which one it was. So that's that. While we're waiting for the other adhesive which are turning, and marketing will shoot if I don't go over there quick enough, I'm just going to talk about the other 2 adhesives we're going to come back to in a minute, and I'm going to ask them to move the cameras again in a bit. So we're going to talk, once I go back to the 66 and the 2000S, we're going to talk about KE49HT and also KE68. Okay. These are what we, these are 2 adhesives again, suitable for LVTs and other stuff, but again, can be used in high temp areas and stuff like that. But what I want to get everybody to understand is what high temp really means and what other areas where we class that as something different. Okay, so while they jump back to the middle camera and they're going to really, really shoot me now. Okay, guys, if you can go back to that camera, can you just move that camera, other camera back where it was? Just switch it round for me, please. Because that adhesive is going off a little bit quicker than I thought in here because of the heat. Yeah, okay. Any questions coming, guys, while we've been doing this?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. There's going to be some, we could do a bit of giveaway after, so please bear with us. So we'll just get the camera tuned into place. Really technical here, I've got wires everywhere. Cool. So again, what you'll notice now, 2000S is starting to turn. So again, where they've been sliding, when I went into them too quick, with no air getting at it, so it's going to take long to go. That now is starting to reach its semi-wet state. Okay, I'll just grab a plank randomly. Just drop one of them into there. So this has had about 20 minutes since I spread it. So that's what we class as semi-wet, not PS. But that's got it now. Yeah, a little bit of movement, but I've got to struggle now to move it. Not like it was when I went into pressure sensitive. Again, if I roll that, oh, again, good transfer, which is what we're looking for, okay, when it comes to LVT installation. We'll leave that there with 2000S. So the 66, that's been down, what, 5, maybe 10 maximum, but probably about 5. Again, always sweep off the back. We'll go in now with that. One of the guys that was here yesterday kindly fitted this for us. It's in. So again, give it a roll.
See, there's a question from Josh.
Josh?
Yeah, he asked what's the open time on 2000S for the class covering?
For what?
For 2000S.
For doing what?
For COVID.
To be honest, I spread that with a paint roller about 2 hours ago. Yeah, because it's a water-based type of adhesive, it will take longer to go off. All right, so you need to spread it up. To be honest, if you've left it, because you're using it as a contact, 2 sides together, okay, a good couple of hours, you've got to put the 2 together. Just like that. So again, because it's got the fibres in, we can see that from the camera. Yeah, that's in now. That's after 5 minutes. The good thing about this one, you can go in a lot quicker. Okay, and work on there. Sounds like we've got a ghost in the training centre. We'll just roll that in there. We'll just pull that back. I don't know where the camera can see. But again, great transfer on the back of there and where that adhesive fully cures. Just something to think about, guys, certainly when we're working with areas of underfloor heating, high temp and all that type of stuff. For an adhesive to fully cure, or certain adhesives with our range, then you are looking at about 48 hours. So ideally your underfloor heating or any precautions that you've put in place in conservatories to reduce heat should really stay in place once you've finished for 48 hours for the adhesive to fully cure. Okay, so that's KE66, really good adhesive for LVTs because you can start installing quicker. Okay, and when we're fitting our LVTs now, and again, I'm not telling you how to do it, I'm not here to tell you how to do it, but my choice of fitting LVTs is to dry fit sections first, and then take them planks up, ideally remember where they went, and then put them back in, spread on a nice clean, wipe them down. I don't like working in wet glue, it's messy, you get stressed, and things start going wrong, okay? So, good method and a good adhesive in regards to that. Now, if you look at the data sheet for KE66, this product can work up to 60 degrees, so it can be used in areas where you have got sunlight coming through a room, okay? We're going to talk a lot about that a little bit more in a minute when we go over to the other 2 adhesives that I'm going to look at tonight. All right. While we're doing that, as you say, we've got no questions coming other than the one from Josh. Oh, one more.
There's one from Trent, flooring and carpets. His question is, how long do you have to fit the LVT into the adhesive PS versus wet set?
Right. In regards to fitting, like I said earlier on, when we tuned in earlier on, I would not advise fitting LVT into PS when it reaches PS stage, because like I said, it's just sitting on the top of the rib rather than in the adhesive bed. I don't know for anybody that's seen it, when I pulled the plank out, there was nothing stuck on the plank whatsoever in PS state. He's grabbed it, but realistically, when the temperature changes in that room, and some of us will experience this, or some of your customers will, when the temperature changes in the room, sometimes overnight, you'll notice a bit of gapping appear. And then when the heating goes back on, or vice versa, the gapping disappears. And a lot of that is because it's sitting on top of the rib. Okay, so hopefully that's answered that question a little bit. All right, if it hasn't, drop us a message and I'll go into that in a greater depth.
We've got another question from Stuart. How do you recommend reuse of a trowel on K68? Let it go off or wire brush it off?
Okay, we're going to go to K68 in a minute. All right. Again, just bear with us while we switch the cameras round. To do that, there's a few things I want to talk through in regards to that adhesive and where that really, can be used, and where sort of K49 sort of finishes in regards to installation and K68 takes over. So hopefully we'll go through that as we go. I'll take some of my tools. So while I go back over there, just in regards to tools, guys, it's always worth getting yourself a pressure roller. Really handy thing for, and as I said earlier on, your initial roll. But guys, while they're all moving cameras around and doing stuff for me here, I'm just going to talk about something else. Just bear with me a second. When we put vinyl sheet in, I'm just going to move this jig. Oh, guys, nests everywhere. Just going to move this jig out of the way for a second, just so I can explain something which is quite important when we install floors. And from somebody that's worked on the technical side, dealing with people that might have a few issues in regard to the application. So, I'll grab this bit of vinyl off the floor. So, what we get a lot of times, people cut their sheet vinyl in, or the rubber and stuff like that. They cut it in, get it all fitting nice. Then they'll pull it back to spread their adhesive, like I'm doing sort of to show you that. And then they spread their adhesive, yeah, and they let it go off. Required time to air off, as we talked about, 5-10 minutes or whatever. And then what they'll do is they'll drop their vinyl in, like so. Yeah, and this can happen with a lot of adhesives on the market. And then what they'll do, either push it out with their hands, sometimes get a pressure roller, and push it out. And they think that's helping get rid of the air, okay? It helps a little bit. Even when I put a big roller over it, sometimes the air will just push to the sides rather than force itself out when you're doing vinyl sheet. So one of the best ways to remove air or avoid trapping air in the first place, so we'll pull that back up, okay? When we put our vinyl in, we should roll it in. So I'm not trapping air, I'm rolling it in as I go across the floor. A lot less air. And then I'm going to use a corkboard. Corkboard is one of the best ways to remove air when you're doing vinyl sheets and stuff like that. So again, I'm pushing the air out of it. Yeah, I've actually seen people on site try and do it with brooms and all sorts, and I'm sure some of you have as well. But a corkboard is one of the best ways to remove the air, and then put some pressure on it to roll it after. Okay, so just while we're looking at that, and just something that came to mind when I was going through that. So, some good wipes. Hopefully the camera's set up over here. That little bit of vinyl's annoying me with some 2000S on. So, a couple more adhesives we're going to look at tonight. K49, which is growing really fast. Alright, I think a lot of people, obviously, once they've used 2000S and then they've tried this, a lot of people have switched to this. Okay, I think, because it might have a stronger bond, or it's definitely got a stronger bond than that one. Now we call this K49HT. HT stands for high temp. This adhesive will work up to 60 degrees again. Alright, but again, if you're using this as a high temp type of adhesive for conservatories and so on, you've still got to use this adhesive as a wet set, not a pressure sensitive. This adhesive is suitable for LVTs, vinyl sheets and stuff like that. So really back to that, when we're doing vinyl sheets and stuff, PS, yes, fine all day long. But if you're using this as a high temp type adhesive where you've got a lot of temperature coming on the floor, maybe some sunlight coming on the floor and so on, it will work up to 60 degrees, but remember you've got to use it as a wet set adhesive and not pressure sensitive. Nice colour on this. Now one of the things that UZIN are really famous for, back in the 1980, they came away from using solvent in their adhesive and switched everything, so it's all user friendly. not harmful to us as a person when we're using it, etc, etc. Green in colour, fine in live buildings to use and all that type of stuff. Again, a nice, good, creamy consistency, so when you tip it out your bucket, it's not going to run everywhere. You can tip out what you need, and then again, as you've seen that I did with the trowel before, just cut it off. So I'm not going to spread on that because you've all seen adhesive being spread. Again, A2 notch trowel in regards to LVTs with this adhesive. And the notch trowels, by the way, sizes you're using are on the buckets in regards to what you need. So A1, A2, depending what you're doing in regards to that. So again, good place to look. And really, guys, something, and again, you know, always a good idea to have a quick read through the label before you start using adhesive in case something's changed. You never know, okay, or whatever. So that's that one, up to 60 degrees. But where does this end and where does the KE68 start? And that's a question we get a lot here. Well, guys, if you've got a conservatory that's glass roof, glass windows, so it's totally glass everywhere, glass roof as well, south facing, I would class that as what we call extreme. Yeah, and the chances are, and we're not all going to stand there with a thermometer measuring the floor temperature every day before we decide to go down this route. I would class that as extreme. All right, and that's what we class here as UZIN when you've got a conservatory like that. So that's when we would switch over to KE68. Another good thing that you could do with KE68 is you can use it for wet rooms, them areas where you'd be using an epoxy. Again, like with LVT, sometimes manufacturers are saying a conservatory it's all glass using epoxy. I think for all the fitters tuned in, to using epoxy adhesive to fit LVT would be an absolute nightmare. It's bad enough to do a wet room in it and try and get the job done without making a mess. And you know it's like when you nail in epoxy, sometimes it can leave a footprint or a nail print, or you'll be nailing in it, etc, etc. KE68 doesn't do that. So it's got all the characteristics of epoxy. Okay, when you initially buy one, it will come with a foil lid underneath it. Our foil lid is gone now. Okay, and as you say, this works what we class up to extreme. But let's just think about that. Let's just think about things as a floor layer, or as a fitter, or as talking to our customer and asking our customer to do in the middle of summer when they're expecting us to fit some LVTs in that environment. We need to kill as much of that sunlight as possible coming into that room. So if there's blinds on the windows, let's get the blinds shut. If there's blinds on the roof, get the roof, or you know, the blinds on the roof shut. Let's close that. In my fitting days when I've worked in that environment, I've got paper felt and I've paper felted all the windows out. And I've even been, and again I was talking to one of our guys the other day, we were on about this, and put a tarpaulin over the roof. Very difficult to do. Customer wonders what you're doing, but I'm doing my best to kill that sunshine coming straight into that room. And like I said earlier, even with the KE68 or any other adhesives you decide to use, really 48 hours for fully cured before you start taking them covers off. Minimum 48 hours. Okay. So hopefully we'll spread a little bit of this and I can talk. Was it Stuart that asked us the question in regards to cleaning the trowels and stuff like that? So I'll just take a couple of rolls of planks out. Hopefully, if you're all watching, if I get it wrong, you can remember where to go back. I might have to ask you for that. Again, get rid of any of that contamination. I will get Fiona out because I know you'll comment on it if I don't. And it's great working here at UZIN and Wolf, having tools absolutely everywhere that I can just lay my hands on. So, as I say, when you use it for the first time, or when you first open one of these, it will have a foil on the top. Okay, and this one, you can't see it now, was in a little bit of a mess earlier on. It was everywhere over the tin, but I actually took it outside, peeled it all off, and it all came off nice and clean, and I've got a nice clean looking book. If I put the lid back on this and put it back in my van overnight, okay, that adhesive would probably skin over, come back tomorrow, take the lid off it, there'd be a skin on it. It doesn't mean the adhesive is knackered. What it actually means is it's sort of almost protecting itself. It's stopping the moisture getting it all the way through. It's putting a skin on the top to stop that, okay? What I'm going to do, again, A2 trowel. And again, depending on what you're doing, you can change knot size for what you're fitting with it. It is a little bit creamier this than some, as you can see. Now look, with these type of adhesives, a lot of people have said to me in the past that they're very hard to spread, very difficult. Yeah, again, I like to be honest, it is a little bit harder than the 2000S 66 and 49, alright, but it's nowhere near as hard as spreading in epoxies or as hard as some of the other adhesives on the market that have got similar characteristics to this. Okay, so as you can see it's a little bit thicker. Just spread some out. So just while I'm spreading that, just so it's fresh in my head, what was the question that Stuart had asked?
How do you recommend reuse of a trowel on K68? Let it go off and wire brush it off.
Okay, two sides to that. You can let it go off, and yes, exactly what you say, peel it off or whatever tomorrow and run a wire brush through the ribs. We're going to talk about that in a minute anyway. Or get some wipes as we go, some good quality wipes. We'll clean it off and I'll show you in a minute. But again, I would always put, even if I've used wipes on a trowel and then put it back in my toolbox, before I used it again, I would always put a wire brush through it anyway. And again, it's good practice to do that, but for me, it was something I was taught to do at a very young age. And again, that should go into my old bucket, not into there. And again, you answered all that to the question for me. Let's grab the bucket. You all guys all answered the question for me in regards to that. It's about picking up contamination on the floor. And if the two guys that were here yesterday learning to fit a little bit of LVT, sorry if I've messed up your models, okay, but it was ideal for what I need tonight. So I think anybody that's watching me, you know, I haven't had any spinach tonight, I haven't got super muscles. And I'm spreading that all right, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on that just to move it round. But yes, like I said, I'm being honest, it is a little bit thicker than a normal acrylic towel. So this needs an airing time now, and that can be anything from 10 to 15 minute airing time, okay, before really we should start dropping our planks in there. And guys, these airing times that I'm quoting are coming from the data sheets, but I know what you're all going to say online, but in the real world, because I get that all the time when people come in for training. In the real world, I know sometimes the site conditions aren't right. Should we be fitting in them? My technical head on? No, but I know you guys have to. Site conditions will have a bearing on how certain things go off. Some will take longer, some will go quicker, depending on the type of product it is and the type of environment you're working in. So these airing times are quoted, but just touch the adhesive every now and again, have a feel of it. See if the ribs are squashing down or are they holding up. If you try and use it as pressure sensitive, you want your adhesive ribs to hold up a little bit. If you're using it as a wet set or semi-wet set, you want them to squash down. So just have a touch of the adhesive now and again, and that'll give you an indication whether it's ready to go in or not. And again, us experienced guys, we've been around a long time, we will do that, yeah? So, Stuart, I'm just going to get some wipes. Yeah, I know what you're all thinking. It's a good job he doesn't have to pay for them. As you can see, yeah, a bit of rubbing around. And it is coming off fine. If I've left that on, I'm going to have to really scrape that off tomorrow, like you've alluded to. You're almost in that way, almost better off leaving more on. It makes it easier to scrape off than less, okay? But I'm running that through there now. Now technically I could run a wire brush through it now, if I've got one at hand, but usually when we're fitting floors we haven't, alright? But what I can do is run a wire brush through there in the morning just to clean them notches, or if I'm going to do another spread later on today, okay, I can run it through before I use it again. Okay. So in regards to the airing time, as I said, I've mentioned that and I've mentioned dropping it in, but what I like to demonstrate with this glue, because like I say, we can use it in extreme areas, we can use it where we're fitting, as you say, LVTs in sunshine, we can use it in wet rooms, alright, if we're doing that environment and so on. But if I just grab a couple of these planks, well in fact I'm just going to put it anywhere just so you guys can hear it, because this is what I like about this. I'm just going to drop that in there. Now, I don't know how well the camera zooms in, but you can probably see there, I've got a little bit of squeeze through. I'm not too worried, because if I leave that an hour or so, if I rub it, it'll just peel away on the surface. Alright, so it's not too much of a worry, or I can wipe it now. But if I just give that a roll, now again, you can see that hasn't had any time really, and it's moving around. I'm just going to give it a roll. Now hopefully the camera, or the microphone on the camera will pick this up. Ooh. You can listen now, the suction we've got on that already, and look at the transfer. When that adhesive fully cures in them extreme conditions, that is not going anywhere. Okay. Again, just remember when you're doing vinyl sheet work and stuff like that, how I've told you to install it to avoid bubbles and stuff like that. It's a better way of doing it. But that's that. Now with the airing time of this one, probably as you say, 10 to 15 minutes, and then I started putting planks in. But remember guys, they've only got a limited time to put your plank into the adhesive before these type of adhesives start to close out. What do I mean by close out? Well, basically they've lost their stick, they've lost their grab, they're not going to work anymore. So don't spread any more than you think you can get in within that time that we state, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. Okay, so just be careful how you're using adhesives and what adhesive you're using where in regards to what you're doing. Take away some of the stuff I've said tonight in regards to the adhesives that are available out there and the extended use of some of these adhesives, like the 2000S for carpets, for lino sheet, for rubber, and as you say, if you're on that job and you're doing some cap and co stuff, and you're doing some cap and co stuff and stuff like that, you can even use it in that environment. Hopefully the stuff I've gone through tonight you found reasonably useful. Alright, we will be doing more as the year goes on. As you can see, I had sticky 2000S's, that piece has annoyed me all night. Any more questions before I sort of talk about giveaways and so on? Okay. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to have two little competitions running side by side. Okay. So what I thought we'd do tonight is the first one we'll do is we'll throw a nice mixing bucket in with a 3-knife and a trowel. Okay. For somebody that can tell us, and again we'll pick one out at random. All right. When UZIN launched, their solvent-free adhesives, I did allude to it tonight. Okay, in what I said. If you Google some history, it will come out. Okay, when we went down that route, what date was that? And then also because we've got the training session, we've got the training centre over here in Stafford, and our courses are becoming very, very popular. We're going to offer another prize of somebody can come on a free 2-day course of the choice. So you just got to look on the line, look at the courses that we are doing. Okay, and if you speak to our marketing people, or what we'll do is we'll pick you out at random, and then you can let us know which course you want to do. So both ones, we'll pick the names out at random and let you know if you've won. But the question for that basically is very, very simple and very, very easy. All right. And it is, which adhesive which UZIN adhesive would you use in what we class as extreme situations? Okay, so there's the two questions. One's for a free course, one's for a free bucket knife and a trowel, okay, which I'll probably get shot for, but hey up. And anybody that's watched one of my face like lives before, I always like to push the boundaries. And just lastly, before we go away, and I don't know whether one of my colleagues over there could quickly turn the camera, the little camera towards the few little samples I've got in front of me. Okay, so I'll just see if they can do that. Yeah, because I just want to just talk about one more adhesive before we close tonight. While you're all thinking of your answers for your comp, all right. So. So the last adhesive I'm going to talk to you tonight about is our KE2428. So KE2428 is a all-round, and then the other one is all-round adhesives. It'll do vinyl, it'll do Parker. But for somebody like me, and yeah, I know some of you actually refer to me probably as a dinosaur now, okay? When I used to fit using these type of adhesives, when we used to pull the carpet back to spread the other half and so on the vinyl, very difficult to pull back, and you were getting stringy effect with a lot of the modern, with a lot of the old adhesives, which a lot of modern adhesives don't do that now. But this one still has got a great grab. It's very, very cost effective in regards to what you're doing. It'll do carpet and vinyl in regards to that, and I've spread some earlier on so you can see what I mean in regards to the stringy effect we're getting on that and the grab on that adhesive. Okay, so that's another adhesive to consider if you're doing some bonded down carpet or some bonded down vinyl. Again, yeah, you can see it's starting to get that stringiness there, okay, in regards to what it's doing. So you're after a cost effective solution in them world, yeah, 2428, don't look any further. That's that. So hopefully we close tonight. I won't recap on the competitions. You just got to watch back online. Guys, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for everybody's support with the new training centre and stuff like that. And it's great to see some of the old faces come along for training. And hopefully you've enjoyed that. Have a look on our online to have a look at what we are offering. And again, don't be frightened to ask us if there's something that isn't there that you were looking to do. Maybe we could do with you in regards to what we're doing over here at Stafford. So yeah, more or less that's it for me. Any more questions before I round up? If you do pop a question in later on, one of us will try and pick it up and get back to you anyway. So thank you for everybody that's tuned in. Hopefully you found that a little bit useful. I've made the right mess. I should sell these off now as a bit of a Picasso with all these little bits and bobs I've stuck everywhere. But yeah, that's it from me. Catch you all next time we do one of these. Cheers, guys.